Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston Autoblog. Very rarely on this channel when we check out crossovers, I speak directly to car enthusiasts. Now, I am sure when we check out vehicles that are not the performance versions, car enthusiasts are going to roll their eyes, especially when we're checking out SUVs and crossovers. But Italians always seem to find a way to inject soul and passion even into their non-performance models. Now, we have the 2020 Alfa Romeo Stelvio TI Sport, and Alfa Romeo has given us quite a lot when it comes to performance. And I have to say, when you take a look at it, its exterior and also its interior, there's a lot to be excited about. Now, I am not going to mention any names, but there are some prominent journalists across the pond that tell us that we must own an Alfa Romeo at least once in our lifetime. That if you're a true car enthusiast, you buy an Alfa Romeo. Now, for car enthusiasts of my age, around 27 years old, other than the last 3 to 4 years, we really don't know much about Alfa Romeo at all. We didn't grow up to aspire to owning one. However, Alfa Romeo has been doing quite a lot over the last few years to try and get car enthusiasts behind the wheel of these vehicles. And what's most important is to do so with a crossover. Now, the Stelvio adds a new spice to the mix, where you have performance, you have a great handling vehicle, and you don't have to spend $70,000, $80,000 to have a lot of fun, but also be practical. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the Stelvio TI Sport and see why going Italian when you want to buy a crossover might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this review, I'd like to thank Boston Motorsports Alfa Romeo and Maserati in Brighton, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and used exotic inventory. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. Being a car enthusiast-centric brand often carries a lot of pressure, particularly for manufacturers emerging or re-emerging in the North American automotive market. For Alfa Romeo, they've always been known to touch the hearts and souls of people who love driving by providing a unique experience in ways only Italians can offer. In 2020, consumers have a plethora of options to choose from in the luxury car segments, with many non-German brands trying to emulate BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz, while Alfa Romeo marches to the beat of their own drum. Despite Alfa getting thrown into the mix of being considered more upmarket, the characteristics of their vehicles just from styling and exterior design alone gives buyers a feeling of exclusivity. Starting off with pricing, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio TI Sport comes in at $48,300, and with optional packages, you could see price tags near $60,000. When comparing to other crossovers in this segment, the Stelvio's dimensions sit between the BMW X3 and Audi Q5. But more notable is the fact that you receive 8 inches of ground clearance, which is certainly deceptive, as the Stelvio appears to have a lower center of gravity than most compact SUVs on the market. So while you have a very aggressive and sporty road presence, you're not sacrificing practicality and versatility. Up front, Alfa's signature grille design is the first exterior feature that draws your attention. While the front fascia itself is almost identical to the Giulia, the Stelvio's presence puts this crossover in a league of its own, especially in this price range. This model has the Nero Ezione package, and this will black out the badging found throughout the exterior. There will also be black accents to give the Stelvio a low-profile look. And at first glance, this spec resembles the Quadrifoglio from far away. You'll get full LED headlights with automatic high beam control if you opt for the active driver assist package. Moving over to the side profile, the Stelvio TI Sport we have today is sitting on 20-inch black painted sport aluminum wheels, contrasting perfectly with the red brake calipers. You'll also get power folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Coming around to the back, the Stelvio's design language differs greatly compared to most crossovers on the market, as the C-pillar architecture is very reminiscent to a hatchback, and the lack of plastic cladding gives this vehicle a sporty and aggressive body style. While the Stelvio is unmistakably a crossover, Alfa Romeo understands that to stand out in this mundane market, a car enthusiast-inspired exterior is the best way to promote practicality and fun at the same time. As you've seen throughout the exterior, and also part of the Nero Ezione package, the exhaust tips are blacked out as well. You'll get full LED taillights to complete the look of the Stelvio. But overall, this is one crossover that I am not ashamed to say I stared at for a few minutes. Under the hood, the Stelvio TI Sport is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that puts out 280 horsepower and 306 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. When compared to competitors, out of the box, the Stelvio is one of the more powerful options in the compact crossover segment, and has a 0 to 60 time of 5.4 seconds, which is better in most cases when looking at rivals. In fact, these numbers are very respectable for a crossover powered by a 4-cylinder engine, and also taking into consideration that it's directly competing against the Audi Q5 and BMW X3. For the drivetrain, all-wheel drive comes standard for the TI Sport, with rear-wheel drive being offered on the base and sport models. For fuel economy, you can expect to receive right around 22 miles per gallon in the city and 28 miles per gallon on the highway. Inside, we are greeted by a two-toned interior with red sport leather seats that are both power adjustable and heated for the driver and passenger. The driver's side will be 3-position memory for added convenience, and these front seats provide a very aggressive bolstering to make even the most routine drives enjoyable. In front of you, between the analog gauges, you'll have a digital display that will show a variety of information, and the amount of information that is shown to you can be customized from the infotainment system. One of the more surprising interior elements of the Stelvio is the heated leather-wrapped steering wheel that I'd argue is one of the more satisfying and higher quality feeling wheels in this segment, especially for a non-performance model. Adding to the uniqueness of this Italian crossover is the push-button start mounted on the steering wheel, giving this vehicle a race car-like characteristic. And of course, how could we not forget about the aluminum paddle shifters that without question are the most aggressive in this price range for both cars and crossovers. Moving over to the infotainment system, we have an 8.8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation and the upgraded 14-speaker Harman Kardon premium audio system. While the touchscreen functionality is a newer addition to Alfa Romeo models, you can still use a rotary dial and touchpad, and to eliminate button clutter, the volume and tuning knob is also found on the center console. As with any sporty vehicle, you will have different drive modes to choose from as part of Alfa's DNA driving system that gives you the option to enjoy a more relaxing drive, or if you're feeling the need for speed, dynamic mode will stiffen up the suspension and remove the speed limiter. You'll get a rear backup camera with trajectory to go along with front and rear parking sensors. Now before moving on, I really want to focus on this infotainment system and get into it a little more in depth. Now around 2 years ago, I had reviewed the 2018 Alfa Romeo Giulia TI Sport, and from what I remember, the infotainment system was not this refined. Now, within the last 2 years, Alfa Romeo has changed up this infotainment system. They've made it more user-friendly, and for the Stelvio and Giulia, it's a great pairing with, especially with the price range that you're looking at here. Now, I do not want to insinuate anything, because I know things can be taken out of context, but this is very similar to what you would experience in a BMW and with their iDrive systems. Now, I wouldn't say this is an iDrive 7 system competitor. Kind of reminds me of the iDrive systems in the older BMWs around 2015, 2016. And that is not a bad thing. That is not something that I would look at as being criticism or as a negative, because this is definitely high quality and responsive, especially when it comes to the graphics and also the resolution. What I also like too about this infotainment system is that it's actually really in depth, and it provides a lot of information. Now you can access your climate control settings from the screen. We're seeing a lot more of this in the automotive industry, but I would still use the buttons because they're right there. But if you don't want to be, focusing on the buttons and keep your eyes on the road, then I guess having the climate control settings in the infotainment system probably makes more sense, probably safer. But also you can access your performance pages. You can see what's going on from there. You also got technical gauges, which I think is pretty cool. Volkswagen used to offer that with a GTI, and you don't really see that much in the automotive industry anymore, but it just adds to the sportiness of this vehicle. But also more importantly though is that at the end of the day, the infotainment system, even though it emulates some of the German rivals, it has its own unique characteristics to it, and that's important. I think a lot of non-German brands try too hard to be like BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz, and they don't necessarily have to. Alfa Romeo has done a great job of marketing themselves as being a sports car enthusiast brand, and they don't necessarily need to be a German brand to get enthusiasts behind the wheel. And what I also find important too, and I understand that Alfa Romeo is part of the Fiat Chrysler Group, or actually it's no longer the Fiat Chrysler Group now, but it's very important to move away from other infotainment systems found in this family of vehicles. And that's exactly what the Stelvio and also the Giulia provide. This is very similar to what you would see in a German car, and it's slightly different than what you'd find in a newer Maserati. So I definitely appreciate this, but also I like how user-friendly the infotainment system is. And to me, compared to what I had reviewed 2 years ago, this is much better, much more user-friendly, and also higher quality. Below the infotainment system, you'll find the buttons and dials for your dual-zone climate control and 3-level heated seats. As we return to the center console, a USB input and 12-volt outlet can be found here, to go along with 2 cup holders, which can be hidden to give the interior a sleek look when they're not in use. Taking a look at the center storage compartment, an optional wireless phone charging pad adds to the Stelvio's luxury appeal. And it's here you'll also have enough room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, optional will be a dual-pane sunroof, which will let in a lot of natural light for all occupants inside. Now for passengers in the back, we're going to start off with the driver's side, and I adjusted the seat to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have enough room to work with here. In fact, I have plenty of legroom. So if your driver is short like me, I think people around maybe 5'8", 5'9", possibly 5'10", could most certainly be comfortable. Now, for the center seat, there are some good placements for my feet. I actually think you could fit a third person back here, which is a bit surprising because the Alfa Romeo Stelvio is actually rear-wheel drive biased, and usually with the center hump, it's usually very aggressive for rear-wheel drive based cars. And this actually is doable. I mean, I'm not going to say this is, practical for a family of 5, but I think that if you needed to, you could most certainly fit a third person back here. And then on the passenger side, I adjusted the seat a little bit further back, and I still have room to work with here. So even on a recline, I still have a few inches of legroom. So I definitely think for people who are more average height, this most certainly works. I think you can definitely fit 4 people in this vehicle altogether. They're not going to be too cramped or too squished. Obviously, people over 5'10", it's going to get a bit iffy. But again, most crossovers in this segment are going to be a little bit more on the smaller side. So definitely take that into consideration. Also, we do have a sunroof here. And I have to say, when it comes to headroom, I'm a bit impressed because from the outside, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio has more of a sportier coupe-like roofline, and to be honest, I have plenty of headroom here, and I do think people are maybe 5'10", could definitely be comfortable without having to feel a little claustrophobic. But for me, there's no way I feel claustrophobic in any vehicle that I review. Also back here, you do get 2 rear air vents to go along with 2 USB inputs, and optional will be heated outboard seats. Now, we do not have that on this particular model, and it wouldn't be needed on a warm summer day like today. And then rounding out the rear seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now for rear cargo space, you can expect to see right around 18.5 cubic feet of rear cargo room. Now, I want to dispute that though, because this would be the exact same amount of space you'd find in a Volkswagen GTI, and this seems a lot more practical than what I experience on a daily basis. So I would say this is very close to probably 20 or 22 cubic feet. I think that those numbers are a bit off, just my take. I think that you have a lot more room here than advertised. Then with the rear seats folded down, you get right around 56 cubic feet, so you do get more than double in size for that cargo room. So this vehicle is definitely practical. It's not as large as, say, the BMW X3, but I do think, though, that for a car enthusiast who has to be practical, has to take into consideration that they do have a family, the Stelvio is certainly enough for daily use. Also back here, you are going to find a little cubby area on the right side of the rear cargo area. So if you have any detail equipment that you want to keep this Stelvio looking good and clean, you can leave that right there and it won't get thrown around while you're on a very spirited drive. And then underneath the floor mat, we do have some extra space for some smaller items. We also have a cargo net back here, which you can set up after you purchase your Stelvio. We also have a tire monitoring kit and a fix-a-flat kit. So if you do experience a flat during your journeys, you can fix that and be back on the road. Also back here, you are going to find quick release tabs on either side of the rear cargo area. And by tugging on them, the rear seats will release, but you will have to fold them manually, so keep that in mind. And then rounding out the rear cargo area, you are going to have a rear cargo cover to keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you have camera equipment like me, you can store that back here and you don't need to worry about people peeking in and stealing what you have. And then once you're done, just press the button and the lift gate will close automatically. So in closing, I think it's safe to say that if you want to stand out on the road and be unique and not be like every other consumer in America, you buy an Alfa Romeo Stelvio. Now, more importantly though, is the fact that this brand is unique. It stands out. It's not like the Germans. They're not trying to be like the Germans. They are Italian. They're going to stick to being what they are. And what I like the most too is that they made a significant improvement with the infotainment system, because in my mind, when it comes to the luxury market, everything is about the infotainment system. Does it respond well? And also the technology features inside. And I think Alfa Romeo is definitely moving forward with that. Also, something too is that when it comes to the interior layout, very classy, very Italian-like. And I just have to say, when it comes to owning a vehicle, you want to stand out, you want to be unique, especially with crossovers. You want to grab attention, and that's exactly what the Stelvio offers. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys next time.